Hello everyone, Paulino here, and I'm glad to see you again. So this week I want to help you get prepared for a career as a texture artist. I went back to my work notebooks and then I found a few texturing tasks that, in my opinion, are very common in a VFX production. One of the biggest challenges for students is to know in advance and feel prepared for the kind of tasks that they're going to have to deal with on a daily basis. I believe that having a general understanding of what you're going to do can be extremely helpful, and it can boost confidence in your skills. Before we begin, I want to make a quick disclaimer. The tips I share in this video reflect my own experience in the VFX industry, so take them with a grain of salt because these things are going to vary a lot depending on the studio that you're working on, the shows that you're working on. Also, there's something else to keep in mind. Some studios might have their texture artists doing a lot of modeling and shading work, but in this video, I'm going to focus on the texturing only. I'm going to assume that you're working by yourself as a texture artist, okay? Because I want to keep the video very short and simple for now. And one last thing, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video with your friends. Your support is truly appreciated. Asset resolution will change a lot in production. Some of them will appear in the background of a shot, other ones will get pretty close to the camera. In order to save time and resources, it's common that we treat these assets differently. A background asset is often small and will not need as many details as the other ones, so we usually spend less time working on them. A hero asset often appears really close to the camera and it needs a lot of attention and resources. We also have other assets in between background and hero. You can call them mid-resolution or something similar. In many studios, it's common that you have someone from production letting you know how close to the camera the object will get. That information is going to be essential for us when we start defining how many UV tiles and the level of detail the asset will need. Okay, the first task here doesn't surprise anyone, right? In visual effects, the most common assignment you're going to get is to match a CGI asset to its real-life reference image. Yeah, and we use reference all the time. If you're still stuck on that I don't need references because I'm awesome and I'm creative mindset, I have some bad news for you. That being said, the type of references we get from production are going to vary a lot. If you are working on a hero asset, you should have, hopefully, a good amount of high-resolution photos from the set that can be used for projections and pattern generation. On the other side, for some background stuff, you might not even have on-set photos, so you're probably going to have to Google some images, find your own references, and then hope for the best. Since this is the most common task for juniors, in my opinion, the best way to get prepared is to learn how to recreate photoreal objects in CG. That's why I keep telling students to start by working on simple objects first, before they jump into more complex assets such as robots or creatures. If you still don't have the skills to make a simple object believable, how can you expect to make a giant mecha look realistic? Another common task that I've done a lot in my career was to support my shader artists with textures. Some assets might be a bit complex for a simple plug-and-play set of textures, so it's really important for us to have a relationship with our shader artists to create the best look possible. They might ask for a few isolation masks, so they can have more control over sections, or some specific tilables that they need to play around with specular breakups, for example. Since these tasks always had an experimental aspect to it, I learned that if you want to be prepared, learn how to quickly create tilables and masks. Remember, this is a team effort, so knowing what the shader artist wants and keeping that conversation going is a must. Okay, so the last texturing task that I want to talk about today is translating concept art illustration into 3D. And that can always be a tricky thing because it doesn't always work out of the box. That's why we need to always search for real-life references to support the concept. And again, it depends a lot on the production and the studio. Some places they might have it all sorted for you, but if not, you're probably going to spend some time with your shader artist defining the materials and the textures, and that can be either stressful or exciting depending on the deadline. In my experience, this kind of task is more common for experienced mid and senior artists. But if you are starting out, you can practice working from concepts after you've nailed the project working from real-life references that we talked about. Okay, so let's do a quick recap before we finish. The first most common texturing task was matching on set and real-life references. Make sure to practice this skill a lot. The second task was to support the shader artist with textures, with masks and tilables. Remember, teamwork makes the best work. Is that even a saying? The third and the last task was to translate concepts into 3D, which can be really exciting because you have a lot of creative input, but it can also be stressful depending on the deadline. Thank you all for watching this week's video. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing with your friends, your mom, everyone. Also, if you have any interesting topics that you want me to talk about, please leave a comment below, or you can send me a message on Instagram. My tag is here somewhere. So I see you guys next week. So I see you, why I keep doing this? Okay, how do I say goodbye? Goodbye, 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 goodbye. Oh, oops.